first thing you want to do when you're changing a baby's nappy is check that you've opened it up. You pull out all the tabs from the inside, and you've got your front tabs, and then you've got your back tabs, which are a bit more like Velcro, so you want to be really careful that they don't stick to anything in the process. The other thing you want to look for is the gusset lining inside the nappy. So as you can see here, it's currently tucked inside. So you want to carefully open that out and have that ready to go against the baby's body. The gusset works to create a nice seal between the child's body and the nappy and helps to prevent any leakage. So it's really important that we take the time to open it out before we place the nappy on the child. So the first thing you want to do before you get the child is actually make sure that you have everything that you need ready. So normally we would have a nappy bag, you would have a pair of gloves, and you would have baby wipes, and of course the nappy itself. Usually you would have a changing mat, but unfortunately I don't have one today, so this towel will actually represent that changing mat, and that's really important for hygiene and sanitization reasons. So before you bring the child to the changing station, of course you want to make sure that everything is prepared and ready for you to go. One of the things you'll need to do is of course have your nappy bag ready and open for the nappy to go inside. Once you have the baby, you want to place them down on the mat, and of course you need to keep one hand on them at all times, and that's just going to help prevent the baby from rolling off the table and of course getting injured. So while the baby's on the mat, I've got my body facing towards the baby so they can't roll off, and my hands there ready for them as well. I put my gloves on before I do anything else. So I start removing the nappy by taking off the straps on either side of the child, and I remove the front part of the nappy by pulling it between the child's legs. Now this is a really important step that we need to do to protect the spine of the baby as well. So as we're lifting the child up, you want to hold behind both of their knees and gently elevate their bottom off of the change mat. And like I said, that's really going to work to protect that baby's spine. Once we've done that, we can carefully remove the nappy, we can close that up and put it inside of our nappy bag, remembering that we're not turning around to put it in the bin unless we are at reach, so we can keep our hand on the child. But generally it's best practice to have a nappy bag available or a transfer bucket. The next thing we want to do is of course wipe the child so that they are clean. We always want to do this from the front to the back because this will help to prevent any urinary infections from occurring. Again, as we're wiping the baby, we need to make sure we're protecting the child's spine by lifting behind both knees. So we carefully lift the baby as we wipe from the front around to the back, and then we put that dirty wipe into the nappy bag as well. Once you're happy that the child's clean, the next step is to actually take your gloves off. And the reason for that is because the child is now clean, and we should be confident that they're clean because we've done it ourselves. So we take our gloves off, and there's actually a bit of a strategy for this, so I will show you in a moment. But like I said, we've got our bodies to the baby, hands on the baby, everything is now in that bag, and we can go ahead and tie that off. The next thing you want to do is of course replace the nappy on the child. So we need to open that up, make sure that the gusset is all opened up nicely, and then we're going to place that under the child's bottom. Remembering that these Velcro type straps go underneath the child on their back. So again, lifting baby with both knees, carefully placing that nappy under their bottom and pulling that front part of the nappy up and over their genitals. Now remembering, if you're changing a little boy's nappy, we do need to make sure that their penis is facing down. That will just help to prevent any possible leakage in their nappy. Now we tighten the nappy so that it's comfortable, it's not too loose, it's not too tight. We don't want to hurt the baby, and we also don't want to have any possible leakages. And the next thing we do is actually clean the baby's hands. Now if the child is old enough and strong enough to stand fairly independently, then you can of course support the child to wash their hands in a sink. But like this baby here is quite young, that's of course not going to be possible, but we still want to encourage those hygiene practices and get them in the habit of washing their hands. So this is where you would get a wipe and you would tell the child, you know, we're going to wash your hands now, and you would use the wipe to clean their hands. Again, you're just getting in that habit of washing hands after we use the bathroom. Once the child is clean, you're happy that their nappy's on tight, everything is okay, you can take the baby and return them back to where you found them. Now that baby's back and playing and happy, it's our time to clean up from the area. We don't want to do this with the child in the environment because it's probably not the safest option for them, and it's good to get them back into their learning and play. This is the time you would take to sanitize your area, to pack away any of the materials, and also to place the dirty nappy in the bin. At this time, once everything is clean, that is when you would go and wash your hands. If the child needs some sort of nappy cream because you see that there's redness or a rash, or perhaps the parents have mentioned that they would request a nappy cream at change times, you actually want to apply this once the child is clean. You do this by taking off your contaminated gloves, and you replace one glove that you can then use to apply the cream. Now when we're taking our gloves off, like I mentioned, there is actually a bit of a skill to this. So your first glove, you can take pretty well from any direction because you've still got another glove on. So I like to grab it from the cuff, really carefully not to touch my skin, and take the glove off like so. I then place the dirty glove inside of the other glove, and I carefully place my finger inside that glove. We don't want to touch the outside because that's potentially contaminated, but we slide it inside and carefully peel that off. And by doing that, we can actually remove our gloves without touching anything that's contaminated. Nappy changing is actually one of my most favourite times of the day, and that is simply because of the quality time you get to spend with each individual child. It's really important that as educators, we make this a really special time for the children, and we do things like singing or engaging in conversation with the child to make it a positive experience for them.